Welcome to Agency Bytes, a podcast for agency owners, hosted by agency veteran and coach Steve Guberman. Agency Bytes is a podcast focused on delivering actionable agency information from agency experts in about 25 minutes. Why 25 minutes? Because who has the attention span for much more these days? And you can squeeze in a listen between meetings with time for a bathroom break or coffee refill before your next meeting.
Welcome to Agency Bytes, a podcast dedicated to helping creative entrepreneurs thrive. I'm Steve Guberman from Agency Outsight, where I coach agency owners to build the business of their dreams. Today, I am really thrilled to be joined by Greg Hickman of AltAgency. Greg helps agency owners and consultants escape the time for money trap by productizing their services, mastering automation, and scaling profits without scaling complexity. Drawing on his experience with major brands and his own marketing agency, Greg now runs a seven-figure business in just 25 hours a week. He's here to show us how to work less, earn more, and take back your time. Greg, thank you so much for joining me today.
Steve, such a pleasure, man. Great to be here.
Yeah, pleasure is mine. I thoroughly enjoy the content you put out, the audience that you build. I just big time admire the way that you run your shop and
thank you.
The operation that you've built, and give kind of your backstory. You didn't just wake up one day as AltAgency Greg. So how'd you get to where you are?
Yeah. A decade in agency, part of Omnicom, and like an agency called Tracy Locke was where I got my start. We represented Pepsi, Unilever. I started at the bottom, project management into account management. And that was a huge company. There was like 220 people in our office, but there was another office of 200 some odd people. But I saw how the whole agency worked, right? Like what it really meant to be a full service agency. And from there kind of bounced around to a couple different smaller shops, some startups, then finishing client side, for Cabela's, which is like a large independent retailer, outfitter, hunting, fishing, camping type goods. And I was the head of mobile there for a year, brought in a small team. And we also had to work and collaborate with, a dozen agencies in just the year that I was there. And contractually trying to get agencies in and out was really interesting to see how even brands worked with agencies. And a lot of that actually informed some of the things that now we kind of teach in AltAgency. But I went out on my own in 2014, sucked it up for a year, didn't know what the heck I was doing. And in 2015, I launched what became my real first semi-successful agency, I'd say. We were marketing automation boutique shop. We were behind the scenes of a lot of online influencers. John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneur on Fire, Dan Martell, who's now huge on the internet, Jasmine Starr, Chris Ducker, a bunch of people. And so we were the team behind the scenes building webinar funnels, sales funnels, new client onboarding campaigns, and really saw just the inner workings of how all of these businesses run. And hit a point where we were, I think I always forget the exact number, but we were about 13 or 14 people, between full-time and fractional. We had a lot of that was part-time help. But I was like, wait a minute, in order for me to grow, I'm going to need more team. And I just had this moment that was just I got out of the agency world because I didn't want that thing. And accidentally, here I am. I've now recreated it. It was definitely doing stuff that I enjoyed doing, but we were working nights and weekends. We were working really hard, and we were kind of being treated like employees. And Dan Martell, who was one of our clients, but also a mentor at the time, said to me, he's like, this model is not scalable. And I think you should consider something else. And he's like, I say that knowing that you're also a vendor. So just take good care of me. He's like, I'm telling you this as a coach, but don't screw me. And that was kind of a clicking moment for me. And right shortly after that is when we really started kind of falling into what is now the AltAgency model, which is really about monetizing expertise and not just labor.
Yeah. Was the intention as you were building the agency over those first couple of years to get away from brands and move into like personal author coaching, thought leadership space, or was that just kind of where your network was pulling you in?
Um, it's funny, when I first went out on my own, I was trying to do the same similar mobile stuff. Like I was a decade in mobile marketing. Like I was known as the mobile guy, um, and had a huge identity around that. And
Mm-hmm.
the when I went out on my own, I was actually doing like mobile marketing consulting. We built like a small text message marketing platform, and we were trying to go to independent retail, like the wannabe Cabela's, and like implement like mobile couponing and all that stuff. And it
Yep.
was a really slow slog to like get that thing going, because all these people were just so far behind that like they still hadn't figured out email. And they like, so mobile was like, like the future, and they didn't care. And at the time, I'd been consuming and learning a lot about online entrepreneurship from people like Pat Flynn and Amy Porterfield, and I just started connecting with those individuals. Like, and they were like, "Well, can you come on our podcast to talk about mobile?" And so I spent like a year and a half talking about mobile at Social Media Marketing World, like on these big name podcasts, John Lee Dumas, like all those things. And it was, but I had nothing to really sell any of those people, but they became my friends. And I was like, I would love to work with people like you, not independent retail owners. Like, I'm fascinated by you guys. And at the time, that was just around the time when I was like starting to dabble with Infusionsoft, now Keep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I went and got certified because I was using it inside of our mobile business. And I went to, I was having a conversation. I forget with exactly which one of those people, but I think it was John. And he was just complaining about Infusionsoft. Again, I can't not call it Keep. I know it got renamed.
Yep.
Like, I was certified on there, still are technically. But anyway, I just kept hearing everyone talk about how hard it was, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what if I just came in and like try to like make your life easier? And like he was like, yes, come in. And so I figured out what to charge him, and then like in 6 days, I had 7 people that were paying me for Infusionsoft help, and I was like, those were way easier to sell than this mobile stuff that I'm doing. And like in like 30 days, my income was matching what it took me a year on the mobile side. And so I was like, I had to have a real hard look at myself in the mirror and say, like, do I care more about being the mobile guy, or do I care more about having like
Mm.
a business?
Yeah.
And I chose the business, and then became the funnel guy. And I'm really good at reinventing myself. And so, yeah. And then we just that service just blew up. And I mean, I made so many mistakes. If I could go back and redo it, I probably would have kept it around longer before evolving into what we are now. But it was serving those people. And it's funny that you say like the influencer, the authors, speakers, coaches, because when we were doing that as an agency, it was easy, like building those funnels. We had seen how everyone does it. Everyone's like, I want what they have. And so we were just kind of like rinsing and repeating, which is where kind of the productization thing started happening. And then we started having service providers like come to us, like agencies and consultants, and
Yep.
it's like marketing service providers, and they're like, "Can you show me how you did what you did with your agency?" Because like it sounds, and at that point, I had never even called myself an agency. Like I didn't even know what I was, and I'm like, "Oh, like okay, like let me try to help you." And so they hop in, and I was like, let's build an automated sales system. And I was like, what do you sell? And they had no way to answer that question. Like, what do you mean? Like, well, we do this
Wow.
over here, we do that over there. And I was like, what? Oh, that's why there's no systems, because everything you do is unique for each
Yeah.
person. And I had to figure out how to help them productize their service. And then I did that like 2 or 3 more rounds with like a couple different cohorts of service providers, and that thing took off. So it was like we started productizing the service so that we can build out an automated sales funnel, webinar funnels for service providers. And the thing that was great for me was I had been in service my entire life. Like I was never a course creator at that stage, and so it unlocked so many stories for my own marketing. And it felt so natural that I was like,
Hmm.
I'm going to actually serve these people because I can talk about this forever. And like, these are my people. Like, I know what you're going through. I've been in it.
Yep.
And that was really what kind of was the shift to the kind of avatar switch, if you will.
And so now you've been kind of in this metamorphosis stage for 2, 3 years now.
No, so well, that actually all started happening at the beginning of 2017. So like
Oh
probably
wow.
spring of
Okay.
2017. Then we rebranded to AltAgency in 2020. And so once from the flagship curriculum that we built started in like spring of 2017, that curriculum obviously it's been added and built
Sure.
up and refined, but 800 people have gone through that now.
Wow.
Agencies and service providers kind of since that window of time.
That's amazing numbers. That's very like super impressive, inspirational.
Yeah,
The
thanks.
impact that you've had. Like for me, the goal is how do I help agencies so that the owners, the employees can all have better lives, their families can have better lives. The work they
100%.
do is better so their clients, have better lives, whether that means promotions or whatever. But to think on scale, like I haven't maybe worked with 80 agencies in the 5 years
Yeah,
I've been coaching. On scale, 800, like that ripple effect, that's just got to be like massively gratifying to know that that's the
for
impact.
sure. And I'll be the first to say that I don't think every single one of them, took it as far as I would have liked them to take it in many
Sure.
cases. Like those are not all like probably, awesome success stories, but like we've worked with 800 people like us
Yep.
that have been in the trenches navigating through this change. And it's like, I mean, it's the same stories, like, I mean, these people are grinding, right? Like 80 hours a week, nights, weekends. And it's the nights and weekends when they're like trying to squeeze in working on their business. And that's where they're sacrificing their relationships and
Hmm.
their health. And I mean, we were on a vacation, we always go down the shore in New Jersey, like historically with my family. And I remember we were down there and we were going to tell my parents that we were pregnant with our first child. And so we're out on the beach and, we, shared the news. It was, amazing moment, hugs. And like literally 30 minutes later, I was like, I got to go back and take a call.
Yep.
And my wife like literally said to me, she's like, we're having a kid. Like this can't be happening. Like when like we have the child, right? Like I'm going to need you there.
Yeah.
And that was like a big moment of just like, I need to figure out a better way to do this. Because yeah, I didn't want to have to go take this call, like while we're here on this vacation, celebrating this like awesome moment. Like
Yeah.
it was not pretty, but that was another like big moment. That's like, all right, it can't be like this again.
The flip side of that is I distinctly remember when I had my shop and I would, I go on vacation once or twice a year with the family,
Yeah.
and same thing, working, jockeying emails, doing whatever. I remember the first year things went off without a hitch, without me there, and I was like, oh my god, like things kept
Well,
running. The following year, we won new business when I wasn't there, and that was the like, oh my
yeah.
god, we can grow without me. There's
Yep.
something going on here.
Yeah.
We've got the right systems in place, so yeah,
That same vacation the next year, we were making sales without me. And I was
yeah,
like, this is the coolest thing ever.
yeah. Yeah, the team
Yeah.
celebrated without me. I'm like, what's going on? I got
Yeah.
back. Let's do a quick recap. Oh, we closed so and so. I'm like, oh my god, without me. So
Right.
my ego took a hit, but then like I was
Yeah.
super proud of them and what we had built up to that point. So that's a massive, I think, win for building something that's scalable when you can pull the owner out of owner-led sales,
Yeah.
operations, things like that, the day to day. You guys talk about kind of the alt agency model, monetizing people's experiences, monetizing their expertise, productizing things. That'll work. Will that work like at any scale agency, or is that like kind of
I
on the
think
come
so.
up?
I think so for sure. And so just for the listeners, kind of like what that, like, if I can put some context around what that means,
Yeah,
um, there are, uh, first of all, it's not the only way to do things.
right.
And so I understand that, but for certain people, I think it's probably the simplest and best model to have like a legit wealthy life and not sacrifice your soul to get there. And so,
Can I
it,
pause you with a quick interruption? I hope we don't lose
yeah,
track. The definition of wealthy is not necessarily, and I know that you also subscribe to this, tons of cash in the bank, but it's
Correct.
health and family and time. And so I just wanted to be
100%.
clear about that. So, okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I love Alan Weiss says, who wrote the Consulting Bible. I can always make another dollar. I can't make another minute.
Yep.
And like, I will never forget that quote. But so, AltAgency, like kind of where it came from, because when I was first rebranding, people were like anti-agency, like the unagency, and I'm like, no, it's like kind of too aggressive for like what I'm trying to say. And it's like, I don't think agency as we understand it is a bad thing. I just think it's changing and it doesn't mean anything anymore. And I think there's an alternative way to go about building what we now call an agency. And it starts with the fundamental understanding that I think the lines between what we know as an agency and like say a physical SaaS or like a SaaS product, and then in between you have coaching, the creator economy, courses, like the lines between all of those things are so blurry now.
Yeah.
And that's an advantage. People are like, oh, like you're not even an agency, like it's like technically your job is to get someone a result. Does it matter how you get them the result? I don't think
Right.
so, as long as the client's happy. And so it kind of is predicated on that there's different ways in which we can get our clients results, and it's not always trading our time for money, aka our labor and or someone else's labor. And also from the perspective of that there are actually four different types of buyers. We call them clients, subscribers, members, and customers. And we were doing this at Cabela's. So like, this is why I know it works at all scales, because clients is like if you imagine a pyramid, at the top of the pyramid is clients. Like it's the smallest part, the smallest triangle. You can't serve as many of them. It's high labor, low volume, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully high dollars as well, but for a lot of starting agencies is not. And so like the margins are nothing. The next level down is like subscribers, where I think is like, again, I'm using different words just to draw the distinction. You can really call them whatever you want, but like a subscriber is where I look at a productized service. So you are a subscriber of a productized service. When I was a customer of Design Pickle, right, I was getting X amount of deliverables per month,
Right.
every single month for a flat rate. Like I was subscribed to a repeating set of deliverables. My first video editor, one YouTube video edit per month for $1,000 or whatever. Like that was I'm essentially subscribing to a specific set of the outcomes every single month. Then members to me is the transition into I'm now doing it with you versus for you.
Mm-hmm.
And with you meaning, hey, I might tell you what to do or give you a template or tell you to watch this video. And then you're going to go do it. And I'm going to give you feedback and critique, right? I'm not necessarily the hands to keyboard. You might be, but I'm alongside you. And that's, programs, consulting, coaching programs, training programs, which is huge. We paid trainers to come in all the time at
Mm-hmm.
Cabela's to just train us on stuff. And that was a revenue stream for agencies that do all of the work, right?
Yep.
Teach us everything you know about, social media marketing for retail, like a 3-day workshop, right? Where they trained us. That was the only deliverable, right? And so there's tons of opportunity for agencies to expand their income without a ton of like headcount and an incremental amount of expenses going up when you can package up your know-how into those sorts of containers. And then the customer tier is like zero to no fulfillment, like a
Mm-hmm.
digital course, a book, right? We've all bought books. And so like those sorts of things. And, Alan Weiss also says having multiple offers gives not only people different ways to buy from you, but it also will let them stay longer.
Yeah.
Because we've had clients that have worked with us at our highest level and then left, and I still see them buy our courses, and then like they'll come back to our high level thing. And there's a lot of opportunity for that as well, and like there's zero fulfillment on that side. Now we don't do that type of thing first, because most agency owners have no audience, and at the bottom of the pyramid it's high volume in order to like have any sort of significance from a money perspective and or an impact perspective, but it's completely like low labor. And so you kind of need, like we always say, build down that pyramid, build down to scale up, right?
Yeah.
Build your offer suite down that pyramid. And then that's going to be allow you to scale up where you're not just having to hire more people. And so that's really what we've done and what we've been teaching other people now, really in some ways not even knowing that that's what we were teaching, but we've codified it a lot more in the last 5 years. But like we worked with agencies at Cabela's where they came in. We hired a company to build out our mobile app, rebuild the whole thing from the ground up. And there was a second line item that we paid the agency, and it was to train the developers that we had in-house on their agile mobile development process.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were like, hey, look, we want you to build this thing because we need it live in this time frame. But our goal is that we will never need you again within like 18 months. So we need you to teach and train our people on how you do what you do and be there like as an insurance policy for a certain window of time when we mess things up, so that we're not dependent. And like, so that agency could have been like, no, we don't do that. And once the app was live, we'd be like, sayonara. And that was
Right.
a year-long engagement. But they ended up working with us for another 12 plus months just on the advisory and the consulting side, which was, again, hundreds of thousands of dollars that they kept just because they were willing to let us be the labor.
Yeah. I was curious, which dollar for dollar, was it the product delivery or the consultancy delivery that was more value to them?
For them?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I don't know the back end of their numbers, but based on how involved and how many people were involved, I'd have to say the margins on the consulting was like 70+%.
Yeah, I would imagine so. So thinking from an agency delivery model, let's talk about
Yeah.
app delivery, marketing delivery, graphic design, whatever,
Yeah.
and productizing in the mindset that you bring through
Yeah.
AltAgency. It's not necessarily so. Don't recreate the wheel every time. Selling instead of hourly rates. Doing packages, things like that. How do you convert those services into what you're talking about, as opposed to like personal expertise from a coach's standpoint?
Yeah. So really what it is, from like custom all the way to product, the way I think about it is, when first, if it's custom, we need to specialize into delivering a specific outcome, right? So a productized service has a specific outcome or a specific set of deliverables that are included. And so figuring out what that is for your prospect.
Mm-hmm.
So positioning it as a product is the first thing. Outcome, transformation oriented. And then it's what are the steps that I need to do in order to take them from where they're at to get that outcome? And that's basically your to-do list, right? Like in the beginning, your team is doing it. You and your team are doing it. Like, oh, well, we do the website, then we run this ad campaign, and those sorts of things. And so there's a certain way in which you solve that problem, and each of those ways has a certain number of steps that you follow. And once you've kind of zoomed in on what this one thing is, it's way, way simpler to get it onto paper in like an outline, into a workflow. And that fundamentally is the first stage of your systematized offer, right? You follow the same set of steps every single time a client buys it to get them to the outcome. That same set of steps can be codified further to just teach someone else to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I
so
think that too many
that's
agencies are
that's
like,
the easy low hanging fruit one. It's like, hey, well, I taught my team how to do it. Why don't I just now teach them to do it, because they can't afford my labor. So like they'll be the labor and we'll just show them.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's interesting. Too many agencies are like, oh, here's an opportunity. Let's recreate the wheel every time. And without fail, every time they do that, whether it's strategic because we want to break into this new delivery model or whatever, every single time that's a money loss. And so,
yeah. I mean, so many agencies that I've come across over the years, they whether they're selling a retainer that should be a project. Oftentimes the way that they structure their payment, they're like not even breaking even on the front end work like until like month 4 or 5. And depending upon which studies you look at, like agency churn lifetime value is like often 6 months. And so some of these people are losing money, they thinking they're making money, and then they're sitting there like, well, why don't I have the capacity to take on another client? It's like, well, because you're bleeding money out the back because this isn't profitable or efficient at all. And a lot of people think that like Productized, takes away, like if you're a creative service provider, everyone automatically thinks that productizing means less creative, which is like actually couldn't be further from the truth. But the challenge that most service providers, agencies have, one is because everything is custom, marketing is almost impossible. And so you're like, you are set yourself up to have to take whatever money comes your way, which A, makes you desperate. B, is you're just responding to whatever demand comes your way. When you productize, you can actually create demand. Marketing it is simpler. Selling it is simpler. Maintaining scope is simpler because it is a specific thing, right? Clients that buy a productized service are less likely to ask for things outside of the scope because they bought a product that had boundaries built into it. And so from the, it's funny, people come in and they're like, oh, like we need all the, like, you're going to teach us all this automation stuff that's going to make our business run smoother. I'm like, not really. Like, I mean, we will use that at some point, but it's actually just like have a standard for yourself, pick a product and only sell that thing. And when they say, can we add these other things? You say no.
Yeah.
And that's how you actually can start having a systematized business, is just do the same thing multiple times for multiple people. And shockingly, the 5th time, the 15th time, the 50th time, you will be able to do it faster. Which means usually higher profit margin, more efficient, which means higher profit margin. And you'll likely be way better at doing it. Thus, the clients are probably getting better results. So happier clients, less time, more profit. Like it is very much a win-win.
Yeah.
For almost every single agency that does it.
And less churn because you're getting better at it. You're making your clients happy. They're sticking around longer. They're referring you out. So yeah,
yes, I have a different take on that. I think yes and no. I think it depends on what the outcome is, right? Like, I think a lot of agencies sell into retainers thinking that like the person's going to stay for life, and that's the only reason there's a retainer. But like, there are certain productized service businesses that have really high churn also, and which brings me to like, no matter whether you productize or whatever type of service you are custom, your success and your ability to make more money and grow the company is still always going to be dependent upon how well can you generate leads and convert demand, right? And most agencies actually suck at that. They can't generate leads. They do not close enough business, which is why their valuations are so low when they try to exit. And they're always hopping back and forth from sales to fulfillment, sales to fulfillment. Productizing does make the marketing simpler, but like at some point, and this actually blends into the reason why I love adding training, because I think agency owners are incentivized to be mediocre, because if you suck, you're going to get fired in the first, short window of time, right? But if you're too good and you keep raising the price, there is always a price where they will say, I can get this cheaper in-house.
Sure.
And so if you've done your job, most clients should want to bring that function in-house. And I'm sorry, but most agency owners, you have to be honest with yourself. Like, there is a time when it does make sense for them to bring it in-house, and you should be like an advocate for that. However, their team who's going to do it in-house probably is not as experienced as you. So you can train them on how to do it in-house for another 6 to 12 months or plus and extend that LTV. just like we did when we were at Cabela's with, or that consultant with Cabela's with us. Right.
Yeah.
And so like, that's great because you can keep working with them and do less work. So
Interesting. Yeah.
the training is awesome because the done with you, however you want to contain it, it not only works to sell a level above your ICP. So we want to bring this in house. Sweet. Let's go through our done with you offer to help weaponize your team in house to do it. So it can actually help you when they want to leave out of upward growth. But it also works for the person that's like, I want this outcome, but I can't afford for you to do it for me. AKA, they don't have the budget. So you can offer a more affordable price and they be the labor, and it works for that too. So it actually expands your market to like two different stages in the client journey that you probably weren't monetizing and turning down. Like when we help our clients add this new offer, usually the first few sales come from someone that was in their pipeline that they turned down that couldn't afford them. Almost every single time.
Yep.
It's like layups. And so it's like, look, we just monetized it because, you turned down those 10 people because their budget was too low, but this thing fits in their budget now. Let's go sell them that. And it works really well.
Yeah, I love that. Real quick, can you talk about the difference in your mind between productization, because it gets blurred,
Yeah.
and commoditization in the delivery business agencies?
Yeah. So productized, I don't think I've ever actually articulated this. So let's see how this goes. So to me, when I say productized, what I've been kind of articulating it as is, you're following a repeatable steps and deliverables to achieve a specific outcome.
Right.
It is framed as a product. Not all products, like now let's step out of services and think about any other product. There is a period of time where many products are not commodities. And so I think a commodity is like commoditized is I can get it anywhere and now we're competing on price.
Yeah.
Like, cause it's so accessible, like it's everywhere. Right. And yes, that can happen to services, but just like physical products, digital products, and services, you should be innovating on what that thing is each and every year anyway. And so like innovate,
Yeah.
make it not commoditized anymore,
Yeah.
and or learn new skills so that it doesn't become commoditized.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, as from an AI perspective, it's like a lot of agencies are going to have to figure that out real soon and way faster than they probably thought, because it's, we're talking single digit years,
Picking up
away.
speed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's a super important distinction, because I talk to a lot of agencies. Yeah. You got to productize, you have to systematize. And they're like, well, I don't want to look like everybody else. Well, that's not what I'm saying. You have
Yeah.
to stand out. You still have to be distinct. Your positioning needs to be unique to you and to your audience and the verticals that you serve.
Right.
But how do you systematize what you do and the delivery method so you can be profitable and not over service every website, every social account, every SEO account? And so productization is the key to that. So
100%.
yeah.
And it's funny because like the same people that are like, oh, that's going to commoditize me. It's like, well, so then how do you describe what you do now? And they're like, well, we're a digital marketing agency. I'm like, isn't that commoditized? Like everyone says that they're a digital marketing agency. Yep. Like, so you just sound and look like anybody else already. So like, it's kind of like moot.
Yeah, it's 100% moot. It's a world of sameness, and very few are doing the right work to stand out and be profitable and getting the margins that they should be getting. So, listen, man, I'm super grateful you got to spend time with us. I want to wrap up with just a couple of random non-agency, alt-agency questions. The first is, what is something that you just can't get enough of these days? We'll skip mountain biking because we know that's your big thing. But something that you're binging, a book, a show, a podcast, a hobby, anything.
I've actually gotten back into photography. I was really into photography years ago, and I got a new camera. We went to Disney World at the beginning of this year, and was just like couldn't stop shooting. And now my son's wanting to take photos. So
nice.
Yeah, I'm like watching YouTube videos on photography and like settings of the camera and printing out my own photos. So yeah, I'd say photography.
Awesome. Yeah. And you live you're in the mountains, so it's a great space for that. Great canvases. What is something that you've recently integrated into your life, AKA tool or something that not AI, that you look back and you're like, how the heck did I live without this thing, gadget, tool, whatever?
Can I give you two?
Sure.
All right. So one, I've always like been on and off in my life with journaling. Um, and I've always found value in it, but then I always stopped doing it.
Hmm.
And I started carrying this field notes around that fits in my pocket with like a pen. And one, I'm writing down way more of my ideas
Hmm.
because it's with me all the time, and it's my to-do list, so it kind of goes everywhere. I kind of journal in it, I draw in it, and it's been like super therapeutic. And I just feel like I'm using it way more. And it's still early days, so it could still be kind of in like the honeymoon phase. But
Yep.
so far, having this with me, I've found like a tremendous amount of value. And the second one, I bought this thing. It's like $35. It's and I've gifted it to a few people. It's called uh, Brick app. I don't know if you've seen this. It's this little square. It's a magnet. I leave it on my fridge at home, and there's an app, and you can basically, it's called bricking your phone. And so I tap the app and I hold it up against my phone against it, and it shuts down all apps that I've set to be bricked. And so I
Wow.
have like a work mode and I have a family mode. And so when I'm on family mode, I get home, I go up to the fridge, brick, boom. Like, and if I want to unlock it, I have to physically go back to that brick and do it again. And so like I'll be
Wow.
upstairs and I'll like go to check Instagram and I'll be like, you're currently bricked. This is a distraction. And I'm like, oh yeah, right. So it's different than just the screen time thing, because the screen time you can always say like ignore.
Yeah.
Like you have to physically get up and then go back and like touch the phone to it. And usually by that time, I've realized that that's a dumb idea, and I don't need whatever I was going to do.
Wow.
And so that's really been helpful because I'm super addicted to my phone, and I don't like having my phone like in front of me or in between me and the kids when like they're trying to play. I can't imagine that that's a good look. So
Yeah.
I'm not perfect at it, but it's probably 3-4 months into using it, probably a little not as consistent as I'd like, but every time I'm using it, I'm legit so much happier.
That's fascinating. I love that you're so intentional in being present because, like you said, like the moments go away and you can't make more of them. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's
again, I'm
beautiful.
not perfect.
Nobody
I
is.
have bad moments, but I don't have any discipline. And so like the whole like 45-minute limit,
Yeah.
I'll hit ignore for the rest of the day all the time.
Yeah.
So having it physically not able to function is like, I have to do that. Right.
Yeah.
Or else I'm going to cheat. So
That's pretty sweet. And then jumping back to your field notes, I mean, I've for years carried notebooks with me.
yeah.
People are like, "What are you doing with the notebook, dork?" But I love it because I'm a tactile person. I'm an analog person. Do you find that it's more effective jotting down ideas as opposed to just doing a voice memo or opening up notes on your phone?
I do a combination of both. I'm actually a huge fan. There's an app called Day One,
Hmm.
um, and I used to journal on that a lot and upload photos. And why I love it. And so like I'll write, but then I'll come back to the Day One app and I'll probably like take a picture of something or put in there, because the cool thing about the Day One app is um, as you do it consistently, like every time I open up the Day One app, it'll be like, hey, here are your entries from this day last year, the day before,
Mm.
or the year
Yep.
before. And so it's cool kind of going back and being like, oh wow, like we were in the hospital this day 3 years ago, like our daughter being born,
Yeah.
or whatever. And so you kind of like, what was I saying to myself? How was I talking to myself back then? What was I thinking about? And some of them, it's like, wow, like I can see how far I've come. And then some, I'm like, complaining about the same thing,
Yep.
which is, I feel like what journals are meant to do, like, but
Yep.
you have to then go back and like pull it off the shelf, which I was never good at. So I like the digital for that, specifically that app. But yeah, I don't feel happier or feel like I like journaled or did anything of real value when I do it digitally.
Yeah.
I could write like a whole Google Doc and still not feel as good as writing handwritten 2 pages about what I'm thinking and what's going on. So there's something to the tactical piece. One of my
Yeah.
mentors always used to say, breakthroughs don't happen on laptops; they happen on paper. And so I find that to be really true.
Yeah, similar. They don't happen necessarily in the office. They'll happen out on a walk or a hike or a bike
Totally.
ride or a ski or whatever. So yeah, I'm there
Yes.
too.
Stop
Yep.
working, people.
Yeah, get out of the office, go for a walk. And then
Yeah.
finally, looking back to a different younger version of Greg, what's some invaluable piece of advice that you would share with yourself, your earlier self?
Oh man. Uh, like business wise, like fall in love with the problem, not the solution. I
Mm,
was so in love with the idea of mobile, but like nobody else saw it as like a solution to their current problems. Like the pain wasn't enough, but like I was trying to force, a square peg into a round hole. So fall in love with the problem, because people always have problems. Their problems adapt, which means you'll always be in business if you can kind of stay falling in love with that problem.
yeah.
So from business perspective, that one. The other would be, man, don't be so hard on yourself. I'm still very hard on myself, but way better than I was before. Because what I've realized, and we've all heard it, but like you have to have some gray hair to actually really, I think, understand it. Is just that everything that you want will take longer than you want it to take, but not as long as you think.
Mm, yeah.
And it's like the willingness to just be in the game, like keep, like the game is the reward,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's something I would also say. Is it's like, how do you look at winning? Is just like you enjoy the game that you're playing.
Love that. Cool. Greg, thank you so much for joining me,
Yeah,
for
thank you.
always just being such a wealth of knowledge. I really appreciate it. Admire the stuff you're putting out. Folks, check out Greg Hickman, AltAgency. He's got an awesome community, tons of really great solutions for agency owners, service providers, coaches, etc. Hopefully you'll get out to Colorado and jump on a mountain with you one day.
Yeah, look forward to it, man. Really appreciate you having me on.
All right, bud. Thank you.
Thanks again for tuning in to Agency Bytes. If you know someone with expert knowledge on a topic that agency owners would love to hear about, go to agencyoutsight.com/podcast-guest and nominate them.